Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, kings and queens of the land. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, the liberated zones, Niger in the French colony, Burkina Faso, and Mali, who are liberated from the French colonies, all because of the armed forces of the natives. Uh, Good afternoon to the liberated zones, to the liberated zone in KwaZulu Natal, the liberated zone of KZN. Good afternoon to all the black people. Uh, my name is Mngoni Mkonto, and this is the Royal Opinion. Thank you for joining. Those who are joining for the first time, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much for joining. Today we're talking about the differences between the EFF and the MK party, because there's a huge difference between the EFF and the MK party. When they talk about, normally when they report on the new, or when they talk about the EFF and the MK party on the media or on the mainstream media, they talk about them like they are the same thing, they want to achieve the same thing, while actually in reality these two organizations are very different, and what they want to achieve is very different things. The approach would give very different results for each person in the organ, or for each organization. So I want to talk about the difference between the two organizations by mainly looking at the 7 cardinal pillars of the EFF, comparing them with the constitution of the MK party, uh, to show the difference. But before I talk about the difference between the EFF and the MK party, I also want to share, I want to talk about just a little bit before I go on to talk about what I want to talk about. I also want to share um, what is happening about what the so-called illegal miners and the plight of black people, the plight of black people in Southern Africa, the plight of black people uh, from Lesotho, from Mozambique. First, Lesotho is a country which is found inside South Africa. I think Lesotho is the only country in the world which only borders one country. It's the only inland country which only borders one country, which is South Africa, meaning Lesotho is surrounded by South Africa, meaning Lesotho is inside South Africa. The white people came and uh, created borders around. Thank you very much, Queen Cynthia, for joining. Cynthia Malopi there for joining. Afternoon, all the people who are joining. So today in discussion is about the differences between the MK party and the EFF. But at the moment, before I speak about the differences, I want to talk about what is happening here at the mine. The Basotho people and the people from Mozambique, the people from Botswana, the neighboring countries of South Africa. Mozambique It's actually um, a country along the Indian Ocean. It's a country along the Indian Ocean inside South Africa, Southern Africa. It's actually the eastern part of South Africa. So Mozambique, it's basically the people, the border between Mozambique and South Africa, it's just a fence. It's just a fence. You could have been on the other side of the fence when white people came to demarcate. You could have been on either side of the fence. But so sad that the South African government, what I'm talking about, the Zamazamas who are by the South African government, by the police, who are being suffocated underground. They close the holes in order to starve them with a bid to try and arrest them. If they fail to arrest them, then they must kill them. So they actually closed the hole where the so-called illegal miners were mining. 4,500 people underground. Bodies are being retrieved as we're speaking. We have never seen bodies of white people being retrieved anywhere in Africa, but bodies of Africans are retrieved everywhere. South Africans don't realize that this is happening to black people, and the purpose of this is to eliminate black people. So, because as South Africans, we love the borders and we hate anything that looks like ourselves. We don't think the people who are dying, the people who have been closed in by the South African, by the British administration in South Africa, um, which is the ANC of President Ramaphosa is the British administration in South Africa. So the British administration in South Africa decided to close the people underground uh, with an effort to, if they don't want to come out, they must die of hunger, they must starve inside there. And even now they are still saying no mercy for those people who are underground. They must die out of hunger. They must die out of dehydration. That's what the government of South Africa is saying. The government of South Africa, which is a British administration, the British administrator, President Ramaphosa, uh, police went to close down on illegal miners in the northwest province. About 4,000 people were closed to suffocate inside the hole. 4,000 people. We don't know the extent of the damage. We don't know how many people were killed in that effort, but bodies are being retrieved. Police have refused to go into the holes. Citizens, South African citizens, are the ones who are leading the efforts to retrieve the people inside, because police are refusing. They only want the people to die. They say they must die of hunger because it's either they die or they get arrested. The owner of this mine is a British company. The British company, they actually have a responsibility to rehabilitate these mines after when they close. So they don't, because they don't care about what happens with these mines after they have mined their gold. So they don't care whether people will fall into the holes, whether people are going to criminal activities, other people will be buried inside those holes. People they don't care. All they care about is the money. Who buys the gold when the Zamazamas go into mine? The same companies, the same gold companies which are dealing with gold are the same companies which goes and buy from the Zamazamas. So the Zamazamas are being alienated. This is part of the war in which the black people are engaged in. I was supposed to share this video. Actually, let me share it. But I'm a bit skeptic because YouTube does not allow the message that I'm talking here. So they will not allow this video, but let me try.
And the day before that, we saw about 5 illegal mine workers also emerge from the shaft. So we're expecting that when the minister arrives in Stilfontein at the police station, after having received his briefing from the other provincial counterparts, he'll make his way to this area. As you'll understand that there have been ongoing rescue initiatives by volunteers from the local community who have bemoaned the Operation Valom Goti, those actions to actually cut food and water supplies. They have actually explained to us that
Operation Valum Good is the effort of South African government to ensure that the people must die inside the mine. They call them illegal miners. They decided to go on an operation called Operation Valum Mgodi, closing down black people from Lesotho, from the neighboring countries, inside the mines, so that they starve and die of um, uh, dehydration, starving and dehydration, and struggling to breathe inside the hole there. So those are the that is the effort. Now the community members are the ones who are trying to rescue, because community members, people of South Africa, ordinary people of South Africa, are very lovely people. Ordinary people of South Africa, they love Africans, they love each other. But the system itself is trying have tried itself to program people against each other. So this is what is happening. It's said that 4,000 people, we may find that more than 2,000 bodies are retrieved there because of hunger. We don't know what are the numbers. It may be exaggerated or it may be small. We don't know how the extent, because nobody wants to say how many people are dead there. But a community member went in and counted, and he said there's 4,500 people inside the illegal mine, and that illegal mine, there's also dead bodies. That's what reported. So very sad. Let me continue to share.
they believe that this effort has not been in the best interests of humanitarian efforts. They say that this has actually left many of the mine work or illegal mine workers somewhat stranded and unable to actually bring themselves to the surface, considering their level of malnutrition, their level of just sheer weakness from not receiving much needed nourishment. We expect as well that some provincial authorities from the Premier's office as well as the Department of Public Safety will also be here joining the Minister in his walkabout and ensuring that they have a clear understanding of how intense the situation that is being described by the community members and the illegal mine workers we've imaged. But we're going to take this opportunity to just jump into this interview that has been conducted with the spokesperson of the minister, Tlenda Mati, just to hear how she's going to outline the development here.
In support of the work that they do on a public platform. So we are obviously going to be meeting with those two community members, those that are in support and those against.
Would you say, Ashenda, I mean, we're seeing community members are coming here, and maybe just yesterday, with the situation when we left here, some were just a bit not happy with how you had responded or to some of
Look, we are not here to make people happy. We are here to enforce the law. That is our mandate according to Section 205 of the Constitution. Our mandate is very
These are robots. These are police robots. These are police robots. They are here to enforce the law. Their mandate is to enforce the law. They are not here to please people. People are not happy about what police are doing, killing people inside the hole. They say they are not there to impress people. They are there to enforce the law. Enforcing the law meaning they have to close the black people inside the hole, let them suffocate, let them die there. Very sad to hear, and very sad news coming out of the British administration in South Africa, the British police in South Africa, under President Ramaphosa, massacring Africans, massacring people from Lesotho and from Mozambique, from Botswana, where we don't know. There's a lot of people there. So very sad. But that is not what the reason I'm not making a special video about this incident. It's because um, YouTube would identify it and close it down immediately before it goes anywhere. So if I talk about other things and just squeeze it in, it will be able to dodge the algorithm for some few minutes or some time, and it will be able to continue to other people will be able to hear what are our point of view about these issues that are happening. That out of the way, let me remove this video from the scene, because that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I just uh, thought it's important that we mention the plight of black people in South Africa and what is happening today. This is part of the war. It's part of what is happening. It's part of the war. It's part of the fight for black people to be liberated um, in South Africa. Um, I wanted to talk about the differences between the AFF and the MK party by looking at their policies, comparing the when we talk about the EFF, we talk about. Okay, let me share this video, this page. Maybe this. Maybe it's going to be visible. It's not visible. It's not visible. I just read it from the other side. I can't see it there. But I want to talk about the seven cardinal pillars of the EFF, mainly the ones that has the differences between the MK party, that would show the difference between the huge difference between the MK party and the EFF. One, the expropriation of land without compensation. Both of the organization talks about the expropriation of land without compensation. This is very different. The approach of these two organizations to the expropriation of land without compensation is very different. The EFF wants to expropriate land without compensation into the hands of the British administrators. Basically, because South Africa is owned by Britain, when you expropriate land from the banks and from the white owners and give it to the government, you are expropriating the land to give it to the British administrators, because the government is a British, the government is British, it's a British administrator. The government belongs to Britain because we were defeated. We are defeated people. We should agree that South Africa, black people in South Africa or in Africa have been defeated by the white people who currently control our economy and our resources. The expropriation of land without compensation, according to the EFF, is to expropriate the land and give it to the British administrators, which is basically the same. At the moment, the kings and the queens of South Africa are not able to issue the title deeds because the land belongs to the British Queen. They can only issue a permission to occupy because the land belongs to the British Queen. So when you take the land and give it to the British administrators, the traditional authorities still will not be able to issue um, title deeds because the land still belongs to the same people who owned it. So the expropriation of land without compensation, according to the EFF, it's a fallacy. It does not exist. It's not something that is going to help black people in any way. And then the other thing about the expropriation of land without compensation of the EFF, they even have changed their tone. It's no more the expropriation of land without compensation. It's now the expropriation of the unused land, according to the EFF now. The expropriation of the unused land, because if you are using the land, according to the EFF, you just have to declare usage to them and you will continue to use it. Uh, 75% of the agricultural land in South Africa currently is in the hands of white people and is in use. White people are making lots of millions from the land through agricultural produce. So if you say white people only have to declare usage of the land, then there won't be any difference in the life of the black people because the land will still belong to white people. They only have to declare that they are using it. According to the EFF, white people only have to declare that after the expropriation of land, they only have to declare that I'm actually using this land, then they won't take it. So, which makes the expropriation of land without compensation under the EFF, it makes it um, a fallacy because they are going to give black people the land which has been the dry land which was given to black people by the apartheid government. The barren land which was allocated to black people by the apartheid government is according to the expropriation of land without compensation of the EFF. That's what is going to happen. Thank you very much, Mr. Mdeni Butelis, for joining, saying EFF has a reason to change the unused land. Zuma is eating piece by piece. A lot is still coming. Yeah. The EFF will not be able to assist, even if they win, even if they South Africans vote for them, they are not going to assist black people, even if they implement their policy of expropriation of land without compensation. it's not going to assist black people. The white people knows this. It's a fact. They know that it's not going to assist black people. That's why they are not fighting the EFF. That's why they love it. They want it to continue. That's why they are given platform in all the media, in these propaganda media houses. EFF is given platform to campaign in the e-news channel, in all these propaganda missions that are in South Africa. They do give the EFF airtime for them to campaign in South Africa, because they won't have any real impact on the ground. The expropriation of land without compensation, on the other hand, according to the MK, the difference is the MK party will expropriate land without compensation and give it to the kings and the queens of this land. The administration of the land will not be by the British administrators, it will be by the rightful owners, which are the people. The white system knows this. Black Rock knows this. They know all of this. They understand exactly what President Zuma intends to do. And they understand the difference between the expropriation of land of the EFF, and that's why white people insist that Zuma is a danger to their existence than the EFF. That's why they say the MK party is a danger to their existence in South Africa than the EFF, because the MK party will indeed take the land and give it to the rightful owners. Moving on, let's look at the other cardinal pillar of the EFF, the second cardinal pillar of the EFF: nationalization of the mines, the banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation. The EFF is now running away from that policy of the EFF. Nationalization of the mines, nationalization of the banks. Now the EFF is saying, according to the CIC, the EFF is saying, instead of nationalizing the banks, they are going to compete with the existing banks. They are going to create a state bank which will compete with the existing banks. The existing banks already own all the land of South Africa. When you start a bank, what will you be owning? Only the salaries of the employees, of the government employees. That's what the bank will be owning. The banks own assets on behalf of the Queen. So if you start a bank in South Africa, you don't have any property, because all the property belongs to the Queen. So it's not gonna help the nationalization of the formation of a bank to compete with FNB, government bank to compete with ABSA and FNB, will not be able to assist. Instead of nationalization of the mine, they want to start a government mining company. Instead of nationalizing the resources and nationalizing all the mines. This is the song that those who are against President Zuma normally sing. Zuma was given a chance to do all you are saying, but he chose to work with the Guptas. What is new is he gonna do now? What new is he gonna do now? I think that's the question. Amdile sifunda. That's what he's saying. I'm just reading your message. I'll answer. I'll come to talk about what we are saying now. Let me go continue with the cardinal pillars of the EFF. I'm talking about the second cardinal pillar of the EFF, which is the nationalization of the mine, the nationalization of the banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy. That's what the cardinal pillar says. But now the EFF have amended it through the speech of the CIC. He has been repeatedly saying that his expropriation of land without compensation means this. It does not mean black people will get the actual land. They will only get the unused land. That's what he says. It does not mean when we say we're going to nationalize the banks, we are going to really nationalize the banks. It means we are going to create a state bank which will compete with the other banks. Uh, and then we're not going to nationalize the mines. We're going to create a mine which will compete with that other mines. That's the language now that they are saying. So meaning they are not going to do it. Uh, they are not going to nationalize the banks. Previously, Julius Malema, the CIC, said they are going to occupy ABSA, which is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. In 2018, he lied. Yeah, let's say he lied because it's never going to happen. Saying they will occupy ABSA because he works with ABSA. He works with these white people. He's highly compromised. So the EFF, in comparison with the MK party, in terms of nationalization of the mines and the banks and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation, the MK party will expropriate the land without compensation, will nationalize the mines. They will expropriate the land without compensation and give it to the kings and the queens of the land. And after that, they are going to nationalize the mines. All of the mines, the minerals, will now belongs to the African people. So MK Party is going to implement nationalization. They are also going to start a state bank, of course, but they will do nationalization of all the resources. In Pumalanga, we've got um, a mineral there called iridium. Iridium is a foreign um, material. It does not come from planet Earth. It is not made by any material from planet Earth. It was teleported from other planets into this planet. It's here in Secunda in Pumalanga. Per ton of material it sells at $45 billion per ton of material. 1,000 kg. It's a $45 billion price. in South African rands, it's trillions of rands, that kind of amount. So if we nationalize the mines, such kind of minerals are going to belong to the South Africans and the people. The government will be able to uh, take care of the citizens in all dimensions. So, but the EFF, it will continue with the same. It will just handle the administration of the Queen. They just promise the Queen to handle administration in a better way than the ANC. Ken Con says, I like your consistency lately. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ken Con. Thank you very much for being around. So, uh, we are talking about, those who don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about the difference between the EFF and the MK party. Uh, what is the major differences that sets this organization apart? Why are people moving from the EFF and going to the MK party? What is the reason? It's because of these major differences that I'm trying to indicate here. Nationalization of the mines, which is going to happen under the MK party. Nationalization of the banks, which is going to happen under the MK party. Nationalization of the water resources is going to happen under the MK party. But under the EFF, you only have to declare the usage. They will only start the bank, the state companies to compete with the existing white companies. Let me go on and talk about the next cardinal pillar of the EFF. The third cardinal pillar of the EFF is building state capacity, building state and government capacity, which will lead to abolishment of tenders. The building of state capacity, which will lead to abolishment of tenders. The EFF, if they are given chance to be government, they are going to implement this policy, because this is a very important policy for white people and white companies. Because what they are going to do is to remove the black man from doing business with the state. When they say they want to abolish the tenders, they say they want to remove the black people from doing business with the state. That's what they say. When they say they want to build state capacity, which will lead to abolishment of tenders, it means they want to start um, state companies which will stop black companies from doing business with the state, meaning the word economic freedom in our lifetime is never going to be achieved under the EFF, because the aim of the EFF is not to create black people who are free from their government, is to create black people who belong, or who depend on their government for everything, for their work, for their food, for everything. That's what the EFF want to create. They will implement that policy of building state capacity to remove the, when they want to, they say when they want to buy a toilet paper, they know exactly where to go and buy the toilet paper. They will just go straight and buy the toilet paper. They don't need to a middleman to do that. Because the middleman is the black man. So they want to remove the black man so that the white man is left alone to do business with the state. That's what they want to do. Delani Mbata says Zuma had a chance like others, boo. Mandela and Mbeki, Ramaphosa. No one will do it as long as ANC ruled by whites, still in change. This is a song. This is what the propaganda says. This is what they sing. The propagandist. This is what their main song. Zuma had his chance. What can he do, or what did he do when he had their chance? When he had this chance, let's say this is true. Let's say he had this chance and he did not do anything. Does it mean uh, he won't do anything now because he did not do anything before? Does it mean people should not be given another chance because previously they did not do anything? I'm just taking straightforward. It's like people forget about even themselves, that they are not perfect. Nobody is perfect. They forget that themselves are not perfect, and they expect other people to be perfect and angels. But we will talk about uh, that issue. At the moment, we're still talking about the policies of the EFF and the policies of the MK party, the difference. Let's look at those differences. We will also look at the quality of the leaders between the EFF and the MK party, the quality of the leader. And the quality of the leaders, we can have a close look at those things. So, obviously, the EFF will not. What the EFF is going to do is going to create a labor force in South Africa, people, a slave system that belongs to either the government or the capital. They will not, they don't want black people to own the banks. They don't want black people to own the mines. That is the difference. MK party wants black people to own the mines. MK party wants black people to own the banks. They don't want black people to only bank as laborers or as people who are earning. They want black people to be part of the ownership. That's the major change that is needed in South Africa. So the EFF fails in that regard. Uh, Number 4, free quality education and healthcare, houses and sanitation. Free quality education, healthcare, and houses and sanitation. The MK party says free decolonize education. Free decolonize education. There's a huge difference between decolonized education and the continuation of the current education system of the British, which serves to keep black people economically excluded, which creates classes among people. The education system which creates zombies than thinkers. The education of the African man, which has created President Zuma. President Zuma is not diluted by the colonial education. The only education he received is the African education, which did not require you to go to school and waste time. It only requires you to go to the forest and take care of your father uh, cattle. your father's wealth. Go to the forest and learn how to take care of your father's wealth. It only requires you to do that, to protect your father's wealth against animals. President Zuma has learned from that kind of education system. I think that kind of education system should be brought back into the system. The African decolonized education, meaning removal of all colonial traces in our education, rooting everything that represents colonialism in our education system. That is the difference between the EFF and the MK party. The EFF says free education. The MK party says free decolonized education, and that makes them dangerous. The last one that I want to discuss, which is number 5, number 6, and number 7, no much differences between the MK party and the EFF. Number 5 says massive protected industrial development to create millions of sustainable jobs, including introduction of minimum wages in order to close the wage gap between the rich and the poor. For them to close the wage gap between, for them to close the gap between the poor and the rich, they say uh, introducing the minimum wage will, is it reasonable for anyone to think like that? This is craziness. If you say when you introduce minimum wage, it will reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. How can that reduce the gap between the poor, between the rich? Do you understand what the rich have, and how much is the minimum wage? The minimum wage being 3,500 or 4,000 500 as a minimum wage, it reduces the gap between them and Bill Gates. How can that be? It does not make sense even a little bit. So the MK party wants to industrialize black people in order to reduce the the gap between the rich and the poor, because industrialization of black people is the only way that you can reduce their poverty, giving them control over what they are producing. So those are the major differences that exist between the MK and the EFF. Let me just look at your questions, because I promised to answer some of your questions. Amdila Sifundo says Zuma was given a chance to do all, but he did not do. He worked with the Guptas. Uh, well, I don't know if this is a question or it's just a statement. It's just a comment. I think it's just a comment. It's not a question, but it's very sad that we still have people who can't see the reality. It's very sad that we still have people who rely on this propaganda to think, to construct their thinking. I think it's all I can say. It's very sad to have people think like this. Because what is happening is real. It's a war. There's a war between uh, the system and black people. So if you can't realize what is happening, then we are very far from actually talking about what we need to talk about. So I don't think that would really make sense for us to discuss all of those things. But what initially what I discussed, the issues that I spoke about is the Zamazamas. White people themselves, when they came to South Africa, they were Zamazamas. White people, when they came to Africa, they were Zamazamas. Even when they went to mining, they were just like mining like the Zamazamas. They did not have companies to come and mine in South Africa. These companies were established, the corporations were established at a later stage after they have looted and mined just like Zamazamas. Now black people getting alienated, 4,500 people being trapped underground by the South African police, aiming to alienate them as the to represent the British Empire. Very sad. I heard that the Guptas were subcontractors in Rupert companies before they started their own. They worked with Rupert. That's how they get their chance as well. The Guptas worked with. They were introduced in South Africa by President Mandela. They worked with President Mandela. They worked with President Beki. They also worked with President Zuma. There's no They also work with President Ramaphosa. They even worked with this guy who passed on. Who is this one? Because I normally forget like people who are not important in our history. I normally forget them. This guy who recently died, who was Minister of Finance. Who is that one? You know him, who used to be Minister of Finance and who used to be SARS Commissioner. I normally forget these people. That guy. So, uh, the thank you very much for everybody for joining. Uh, let's look at the differences in a proper way, in a way that will help us to make the right kind of decision in order to support the right kind of people that we have to support. As black people, we really have to free ourselves, and we have to. Yeah, it's not Titombo Wen. It's not Titombo Wen. Titombo Wen. The other one, is it Jamnandas? Jamnandas. I'm talking about Jamnandas. He also passed away. Yes, I'm talking about Jamnandas. What do they call him? The other name. What is that? What is the other name? I only remember him as Jamnandas because the EFF used to call him Jamnandas. I really forget people who are useless in South African in the history of black people. So I want to thank everybody for joining the live stream, and click the like button and subscribe. Whoever is coming here for the first time, let's click the like button and let's subscribe. You can support the Royal Opinion. There are t-shirts, Royal Opinion t-shirts, which are available. If you want any of those t-shirts, you can uh, send me a WhatsApp 071 Praveen Godan. Yes, Praveen. That's the guy. I really forgot him. Praveen Godan. Yeah. Yeah. These people. Yeah. Those who are making black people to suffer in South Africa. Praveen Gordon is one person. Yeah. That I wanted to talk about that I forgot. Yes. So let's fight the British administrators. Let's fight the Queen. Let's fight the British for our freedom. Uh, let let's support President Zuma. Let freedom reign in South Africa. Thank you very much.